Hello again, Bob Forche, Supply Chain Pro to Know, and now we are back with another installment. We are doing Sales and Operations Planning. It is about the assessment of the maturity model for S&OP, and this is the fourth installment. This is the part about people, participants, and who should be involved. So hopefully today this gives you a little bit more basis for understanding what this process flow looks like. In the initial discussion, we have to break this up into what participants at what stage of the process. And so the initial stage is going to be the demand data where we curate and evaluate and make plans for the forecasting cycle that we're in. So initially we have demand and forecasting team, we have product management experts, we have marketing and sales leadership. We might even also have external data sources here for causal forecasting, industry experts that might be giving us some additional feedback to validate our internal numbers. And so that's going to be important to look at. This first stage is about understanding all the latest inputs in terms of demand data. We're looking at customer data, we're looking at the sales history, we're looking at the CRM information, what's in the sales pipeline, what's going on with projects, what's going on with new product launch. All those factors are going to be weighed in. So the end of week number one in this process is going to be a document of the sales demand plan. We give this now to the supply team, which is going to be week number two. And now we have to look at, did anything change? Is this the same as it was last month? Or are there new things that we need to understand? And it might be a change in terms of the demand. A new product launch could be formalizing, for example. Or it could be a change in the supply side that we have to deal with too. So the supply team is going to look at capability, it's going to look at capacity, it's going to look at suppliers, it's going to look at our core commodities, it's going to look at commitments for each of our supply streams. And essentially we're going to look at the confidence level for each of these different elements in here. When we look at the gaps and the risks, we might find that some things are relatively straightforward, and even though there might be a delay pending, we can see how this will evolve pretty quickly, and we know the result and we can count on that. But very often we don't have that level of confidence. So we need to understand, does this sound like this is more than a month or two? Does this sound like it's got high risk and we don't know what plan B would look like yet? So that might be where we go next, is to understand what are the alternatives. So week number two in this process is to have the supply team evaluate the demand plan, decide what they can support and how they can support it and what actions would be necessary to make that work. The third week in the month is going to be where we bring these two teams, the key leadership from demand and the key leadership from supply, together with the financial team, where we do a review on the financial analysis to look at profitability and cash flow. Very, very important that we validate cash flow and profitability here, because if the product mix or the supply mix is out of balance, we could have some issues on the financial side. So the outcome of this third week in the month, what we call the pre-S&OP meeting, is to consolidate supply, demand, and finance. And what we might come away with is maybe a couple of different plan alternatives. So plan A might be what we want, but maybe we don't have high confidence. So we have plan B, something we have higher confidence in, even if it isn't exactly what we want. We make these recommendations now to the fourth week, the executive review session. So this is the final cycle in the month where all the executive team is going to come together. All the functional leadership has to be in attendance and participating. We're going to make a quick analysis and a recommendation and a final decision on what's our final plan of action. What are the action steps that need to be implemented, if anything new? Who's responsible? What's the timeline? And of course, we're going to look at the gaps and risks to make sure we are all on the same page. So at the end of that whole discussion, we have one single plan of record, which is very powerful. And because we have everybody participating, we avoid any surprises that might show up later. And now we can go away knowing that we've made good, solid decisions proactively, which allows us to be in a better position to implement those changes that we want and that we need. At the end of this conversation, we are completing our notes in a journal. What did we decide and why? So we can come back to this each period, each cycle, and look at what did we do, how did we do, and should we change anything in terms of ongoing decision making. So this is where we look to the senior leadership to own the process, and a key team manager, a demand manager, a master scheduler, depends on the size of the company, in terms of who's going to facilitate the meeting, and that provides the structure. All the participants now are here to bring their representative inputs from the different silos and help us come up with a cross-functional single plan of record at the end. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more frame of reference in terms of the participation. There could be other things that happen along the way when we look at balanced scorecard, at strategic product launches, and things like that. So that's the summary of the people part of the process, participants. And so next week we'll be back with another installment. So take a look at that as we start to go into more of the process details. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk again soon.